Hey guys, the Be Different podcast is back, and if you haven't followed us on YouTube, just do it. It's in the bottom right corner. It's on video. Just hit the button, subscribe, and then you're on. You're going to get all of our videos. Also, if you haven't done it already, social media, Instagram, Twitter, follow the Be Different podcast, and enjoy this week's interview with Rashad Philips. Welcome back into the Be Different podcast. Yep, we are out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Brad Redford is here. Nick Given, Greg Wichard, they are here as well. They are in the background taking care of all audio, taking care of all video. But this interview today, I got to enter in our guest right now. He runs a sports talk show, a podcast, 2319. It's a big-time show. This guy is a guru for college basketball and the NBA. If you want to learn more about players, get an understanding of tendencies, and really dive into the game from a former player's perspective, be sure to check out 2319. In addition to that, this guy recently on In the Zone with Chris Broussard. He was on The Herd with Colin Cowherd just last week. He played his college basketball at the University of Detroit. He's from Detroit, Michigan. During his time in Detroit, pretty productive, 2 NCAA tournament appearances, played overseas for 8 years, and Kobe Bryant said this guy was the best player that never got drafted. That's pretty cool. And I'm speaking about Rashad Philips. Rashad Philips entering the man, the myth, the legend, Yoda, what everyone refers to him as now. Rashad, welcome to the Be Different podcast.
Thanks a lot, Brad. That was an awesome introduction, but I want to tell everybody before we get started, I am the second best shooter on this podcast.
Oh, wow.
Just so everybody knows that.
That's amazing. Hey, coming from you, I'll take that because I've seen you shoot. I've seen you dribble through full court presses and hit shots from 38 feet. So, but I'll take that. If there's anything I can do on a basketball court that I'm confident in, it's being able to shoot that rock.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Rashad, I do want to touch on your podcast. You have a really good following. Where can people find it? When did you start it? And kind of what was your motivation behind it?
Well, it's my YouTube channel, and it's called Sports Talk 2319. You can subscribe there. And what kind of got me started to doing that was, I went to a mid-major. You went to a mid-major at the time, and it was just the fact that there wasn't enough coverage of college basketball and as a whole. And there were so many great players that I've come across, I played against, I played with. And during that time, there was just not a platform for guys that could really play this game to be heard. And if you look at the college basketball landscape, you have 351 teams, over 4,000 Division I players. And when you look at the high-level media, the media platforms, they don't cover all of that. So what I try to do with my Sports Talk 2319 is be a voice for all of college basketball, not just the high-level university. So I started it about 8.5 months ago, and from then on, it's really taken off. I've had so many different guests on there, from Dwayne Stevens, the assistant coach from Michigan State. I've had Loyola. They had a Final Four run. I had Coach Valentine on there. Players of Mike Dom, Fletcher McGee out of Wofford. So it's really taken off, and I'm very excited to continue Sports Talk 2319 and see what it has to bring next season.
Well, and what I really like personally about your show a guy that played the game, is you don't just take a trend that's hot on ESPN or take a trend that's hot on Fox Sports. Whatever you take, you can call some of your takes hot takes, but there's a lot of beef behind it as well, right? There's a lot of film and due diligence that you've done on your part. You don't get stuck on percentages. You tend to watch players of more how they read and react to situations on the court. And I think a lot of guys, when they look at points per game or efficiency stats, they also don't read when they miss a shot. How did they read a pick and roll? How did they read a down screen? How did they read a curl? So what I've kind of enjoyed about listening to your show is you go deeper than what you normally get on an ESPN or on, really any media source that wants to give you a quick take. You're going to give someone a hot take in the title, but there's going to be a lot of beef, and you better listen to the full deal, because there's been some of the titles that you've said, and I'm like, there is no way that this is gonna work. I don't get how you're gonna get there, and then somehow you wrap me into, maybe I don't agree with what you said, but I completely understand where you're coming from, which I find, which is hard to do, and it takes a lot of time.
It does, Brad. A lot of people, we talk a different language, which is the basketball language. And, I've learned this in media that everyone's not going to agree with you. But what I try to do is, when I'm watching basketball from a pure standpoint, is give everybody an opportunity to understand that I can't be all the way wrong, because there's so much homework that I put into my opinion that I can sometimes tell you exactly why it's going to work and how it's going to work and how much time it's going to take for all that to come to fruition.
Yeah, and how much have the game has changed over the last 10 years? And we're going to get to your story here in a second, because I want to make sure everyone listening, and a lot of people are going to understand who you are, but I want everyone to know your full background as well. But over the last 10 years, when you think about the transition at the college level and NBA level for players, what has been one of the major differences for you from watching the game?
Well, the shooting has picked up. When we were playing, especially my type of style, it was taboo for a 5'9", 5'10" point guard to dominate the game. And when you speed it up 20 years down the line, the NBA they're combing the college landscape looking for a point guard that can dominate the game. Outside of the point guard position, we're starting to eliminate the center position. It's becoming positionless basketball, spread basketball, where jump shooting is the number one priority, and speed. So the game has gotten far away from the big guy throwing the ball in the post and allowing your big to play off of that. It's becoming, put the ball in your point guard's hand and allow your point guard to dance around and find the shooter. So that's where the game has evolved to. And I actually love it. It's exciting to watch.
Oh, and it's a lot of it is based off skill and understanding and reading, reacting, which you talk about a ton in your show. But a guy that could really play at a high level was you, no doubt. And I want you to go back to when you were in Detroit. You entered in at Ferndale High School, a freshman at 4'9". You ended up playing 4 years on varsity. Yeah. 4'9", entering in a high school. You played varsity as a freshman. How does that happen?
Well, when you look at my upbringing, my father was he opened up a community center back in 1979. So I was raised around the game. So I was always around the Chris Webbers, the Steve Smiths, those type of guys. And I just learned the game. I learned how to train at an early age, and I was a natural at it. So I was always taught it's about your skill set and the size of your heart. And that's one thing that they can't measure. So when I entered high school at 4'9", 4'8", I was never concerned about my size, because what I lacked in size, I made up in skill and heart. I was able to chop the bigger players down with my IQ. I was able to make the right reads at an early age. And I knew once I started to grow into my body that my skills would meet. And that's what happened as I became a senior and I grew a whole foot. I was around 5'8" when I left high school, but my skills were there, my heart was there, and I was able to have a pretty decent high school career.
All right, there's a lot in that and what you just said, and there's two words that really stuck out to me in what you said, and one was skill, the other one was heart. So can we break the two of those down? Let's go with skill first, because those two have to meet to make a great player, right? There's some guys that are extremely skilled, don't have the heart. There's guys that have a ton of heart, but they can't put a ball in the ocean. So you got to combine the two. I mean, you likely, and you kind of alluded to it, but you had a unique talent growing up, right? And some guys are just naturally better at playing sports. You were always a gifted player at some level. Take me through the skill piece at the high school level first. How did you approach the game from a skill standpoint?
Well, from a skill standpoint, I was able to master my craft at an early age. I was a terrific ball handler. That's a skill. I was a great jump shooter. That's a skill. and I had a great mind and feel for the game, which is another skill. But on top of that, I had the toughness where I was able to – I played with older kids growing up. My father always played me up. I played on the playground. I played in the gym with older guys. So I was able to have that toughness. And when that toughness met the skill, it was really no stopping what I was able to do, because the average high school basketball player as a freshman lacked two main skills: ball handling and shooting. So many kids I come across training, when I talk to their parents and they're 14, 13, 14, 15 years old, the thing that they lack is always jump shooting and dribbling. And those were the two assets that I had going in my favor as a freshman in high school.
How much for you was it, and I'll talk more off-season working out because that's where we're at right now, how much of it was individual skill work compared to going out and playing 2-on-2, 3-on-3, or 5-on-5? How did you mix that piece? Did you go in and set workouts for yourself and then play 5-on-5 when it was available? How did you handle that process?
Well, with my father running a gym, a community center, I always had access to a gym. So I'm one of those traditional gym rats that you would call. I was a gym rat, always in the gym, but I got a lot of skill work in. But the repetition of playing 5-on-5, and I like to use the term sparring, the boxing term. I always sparred with different players, high-level players. I never ran from competition, and that just for me, it was always like sharpening my sword, and that's what helped me prepare to get to that level when I was a freshman to start on varsity, because I never ran from a challenge. I loved to play the game, and I always had fun with it.
All right, and then from high school, transition to college. You go from Ferndale to UD, Detroit Mercy, play under Coach Perry Watson from 97 to 2000. How many schools were interested in 5'9" Rashad Philips coming out of high school?
Oh, Brad, not many. Not many. I was one of those guys that wasn't heralded. Small, 5'9", $150, and again, like I told you before, the way the game was played back then, it was almost taboo at what I was doing. I was averaging 26 points a game, and that wasn't always celebrated. So for a college coach to look at a 5'9" guy and say, well, he's just a phenomenal scorer, but what else can we do with him? So I wasn't highly recruited, and but Georgia Tech really showed a lot of interest in me. Okay. A lot of people don't know this story, but Georgia Tech was very interested where they offered me verbally, but at the time I was a non-qualifier, and the ACC wouldn't accept non-qualifiers. So UD, I was happy to go there. It was my city school. I was proud to wear Detroit across my chest for my family, my friends, and a great institution. And from there on, I had a great time.
All right, when you rep Detroit, you wore Detroit, there's no doubt about that. Anyone who talks about your playing career, they light up when Rashad Philips' name comes up. You bring up Rashad Philips, you bring up Detroit, watching you during that time. I mean, people's faces light up. I've seen all the interviews, and I've talked to people about you a number of different times. Was there any time during your career where you felt like you lost your confidence? Was there a game or two or a stretch of 5 games where Rashad Philips, and I know it's hard for me to understand or anyone else, did you ever lose your confidence?
Absolutely. One thing about me is I'm very transparent, and let me tell you a quick story. My very first college game was against Cincinnati, and they were the number 1 team in the country, and they had a guy by the name of Kenyon Martin.
He was decent.
And he was pretty decent. And they had Melvin Levitt, the helicopter, Bobby Brendan, and they had these 2 junior college guards that was tough as nails. And here I am after sitting out. I'm 19 years old. I'm 150 pounds. I check into the game, and Bob Huggins just throws on a Javon Carter press.
Yeah.
I'm dribbling up the court, and I take my first shot, air ball. and I was like, I don't know if college basketball, I didn't know it was this difficult.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was this difficult. And Kenyon Martin is one of the most ferocious basketball players I've ever seen. And at 19 years old, he was just mean. He was angry, and he dunked the ball hard. He elbowed you. He stared you in the face. And that right there, that changed me.
Mm-hmm.
That changed me.
Yeah, you take a step back, and there's one thing to watch a press like that on film, but when you're in the weeds and you're trying to break that press, I mean, it is so much faster, and the guys are so much stronger than you expect. And a team like Cincinnati, the way that they play defense, and they've really continued it. I mean, you play Cincinnati. I played them 5 times in college. I mean, those guys, it's brutal out there. I mean, they trap you so quickly. They're strong, they're athletic, they're tough as nails, but it's a whole different game, and it makes you kind of rethink, especially when you think about you. You're a point guard. You have to be the general. You have to be the leader. If Rashad Philips, the starting point guard on UD, is in a panic, the whole team's in a panic.
Whole team.
And so that's where you have to look back and say, hey, listen, I'm the captain of the ship. I need to take care of business. How do I make sure that doesn't happen again? How does Rashad Philips say that doesn't happen again? What did you do?
So what I did is I went back to the drawing board. I went back to the gym. My sanctuary for me was always an empty gym. I just felt when I was in an empty gym, I can always relax, hear my thoughts, hear the whispers from the basketball gods, and get myself together. And that's exactly what I did. I got back to the gym. I thought the gym. At midnight, I shot. I created a narrative in my mind. I would do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 shot. I would run my own offensive set. I was standing to myself empty. And if you were a person standing in the corner and I didn't see you, you would have thought I was crazy because of the way that I trained myself. He's yelling at himself. I got myself back prepared to go out because I was one of the best college basketball players that I've ever seen.
Hey, Rashad, real quick, just because it was a good story, I just want to make sure that I can hear you. It got a little bit staticky that last 20 seconds, so I just want to make sure we're good here.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Are you okay? I'm going to check in with Greg Wichard here just to make sure that we're all good and on task.
Yeah.
All right, we should be good. Yeah, I might just stop you one more time just to make sure that we got you.
Okay.
I want to make sure we complete this all the way through. So one thing when you take a look at your stats, the way that you played, I mean, obviously what stands out to you, you're 5'9", but you could really get any shot that you wanted out on the court, right? You talk about skill work and how that played a part in what you did. Having situations like when you play UC, they full court press you. Your head's turning a little bit, you're spinning. You thought, how do I take a negative situation and how do I grow from that? How do I become stronger? And you did that. I mean, you look at your numbers over your career, over 43% field goal percentage, and you were taking very, very difficult shots. Some of these shots are 6, 7 feet behind the arc, hands in your face. You shot over 40% from the three-point line, 87% from the free throw line over your career. And when you look at when you went from a freshman to a senior, your points per game went up every single year. Your efficiency went up every single year. I'd imagine your leadership went up every single year, as well. And a lot of times you see these guys go through sophomore slumps. You didn't really have that. You got better every single year in college. You don't see that often.
Right.
How did you improve every year? Because if a lot of freshmen, what happens, Rashad? You average 10 points per game. You're playing well. Your team has a good year. You make the NCAA tournament, and then you have a bad second year. You got better. You got better. So how do you not stay complacent? Because that happens to a lot of guys, and that's and we're talking outside of basketball too, right? Like how do you not get complacent at work? You have a great year at work. You're in sales. You crush it. You get your mark, and then the next year, right? You're done. You already proved that you could do it, so why continue it, right? And that's what I think you've done and what you teach a lot of players and what you see a lot through 2319, your YouTube channel is don't get complacent, and you're when I hear you talk, when I watch you play, the words that come to mind are competitor, fearlessness,
Yeah.
always ready. How do you keep that fire going at all times?
Well, I'm gonna let people in on a little bit of a secret about me. There's a fire that burns inside of me, and I always tell people this: I never sign on to do anything in life unless I can be the best at it. I'm not going to sign on to be anything unless I can be number one at it. So when I finished as a freshman, I wasn't the best guard in the country. I had a lot of work to do. I wasn't the best player in the conference. I wasn't the best player in the state of Michigan. So for me, that fire always burned inside of me to go back and do more. Here's a little funny stat, because I'm a stat guy too, Brad. I ended up being the all-time leading scorer at the University of Detroit. But a lot of people don't know, I didn't start as a freshman. I didn't start. I came off the bench, and for me, that was another chip on my shoulder to myself as I'm not good enough to start. So I went back into the summer and got myself together and said, that'll never happen to me again. So that same mentality of I don't do anything unless I can be number one at it is the same. It's the same mentality that I live with today. I don't sign off on anything unless I feel in my heart I can be number one at it.
Is there enough time in the day? Where does the balance come in? Where's the balance, Rashad?
Well, a lot of times there wasn't sometimes.
You're right.
There wasn't. Just to be completely honest, there were times where, to be a great player, you have to be you have to have a little bit of obsession at what you're trying to do. I was obsessed with being the best. I was obsessed with it. And sometimes you're going to lose out on your social life.
Mm-hmm.
There were some times that my grades dipped because of that. There were times where things just didn't go my way because of my obsession to be the best at it. And as I got older, I got smarter, and I started to find that balance from my obsession to be great and to try to level off
mm-hmm.
and be a normal human being.
Yeah, and I struggled with that. That was one of the hardest things for me when I started playing at Xavier, was finding the balance of being the best player at a very high level that I could be and investing the amount of time and energy it takes, because I think that is why there's such a strong debate on should some of these athletes be paid and should they be treated a little bit differently from an education perspective and what they're learning. Because when you're a guy that's trying to be the best at their craft, it requires an elite level of focus and an elite level of energy. And when I look back on my schedule, especially when I got hurt too, it would be morning training room from 7 to 8. After 7 to 8, I would go and I would get shots up from probably 8 to 8:30, 8:45. I'd go to class from 9 to 12:30, 1 o'clock. I'd grab lunch.
Yep.
Practice was at 3, so I had to be there at 2 in order to get my body prepared. We'd practice from 3 to 6, and then I'd have to wind down, ice
Study
bath,
table.
get out of there by 7. You do study tables 7 to 9, and then I would go back and shoot probably from 9 to 9:30, and I would rinse and repeat. And that was the story, right? But hard to do that when, and I struggled and academically, and let's just be honest too, like when you're a white basketball player like myself, they think automatically, oh, this guy's got good grades, this guy's going to figure it out, right? Well, I struggled.
Right.
I struggled. And you look, my freshman year, I was ineligible. I would have been after my freshman year. And people are like shocked when I've told people that, but it's completely true. Like I had to take 3 classes after my freshman year to just be eligible for my sophomore year. I mean, it's just reality of where I struggled to find a balance of being the best player, being elite, getting better. Because my goal was, to play in the NBA. No one. I didn't go to college and play at Xavier to not play afterwards, right? I mean, that's my goal, and I think that's what's challenging for me when I work with younger guys that I see want to become elite talent, and they can be, helping them with the balance of what it is right now. How can you be a guy that wants to be the best player at his craft, and he has shown that he possibly could be based on what he's done in high school and why he's playing at a school like a high-level school, or even guys that are playing at the mid-major level that are really good? Like, how do they become that and then take care of that education piece on the side? And that's always a hard tug and pull, and I don't know that there's a perfect answer for that. But I know that I struggled mentally trying to find that balance between being the best, taking care of business. Because at the end of the day, I felt like I'm going to get kicked out of Xavier because I'm not hitting shots or I'm not performing on the court. The school part will fix itself. Like, I'm going to figure that out, do enough to stay in. But for me, it was very secondary. So that if that's secondary, then you have social life, then you have family. It's like, where do the hours of the day fit in where you can be an actual person? And that balance can be challenging and frustrating and difficult. And I think for me at times when I got to the end, between injuries, I think it burnt me out a little bit. I mean, I think I was just like, I don't know that I had a great mentor at that time that helped me understand the full picture of what I was going through, and I think that's tough. I try to bring that piece to guys at times, but it's tough. I mean, you're young, you're 19, you're 20 when you're going through that. I mean, it's a lot for you to handle. I mean, your brain's not even fully developed yet. So, I mean, how did you kind of work through that, because you obviously were playing at an insanely high level. At what point did it start maybe tapering down for you, or when did your mentality switch? And obviously you can't play basketball forever. You played professionally for 8 years, but regardless of whether it happens in college or professionally, how do you wind it down and bounce back into something else, or, working on those other relationships?
Well, one thing that you said, there was a lot to take there. So great feed that you said. One thing I learned as I got older was work smarter, not harder. And I started to hone in more on the quality instead of the quantity. So that kind of helped me as I started to, play overseas and stuff like that. And, once I got overseas, and this is what a lot of people don't know about Europe, and I've gotten a lot of flack, like, oh, you played in the 2 league in Europe, or you played in the B league in France. What people don't understand about going overseas when you're American is that I never sat in the driveway with my dad and we dreamed of playing in Europe.
Right.
My dad never said, we're going to get these 500 makes today because you're going to be an all-star in Europe. So people have to understand when I didn't get drafted, Europe wasn't my dream. So it became more of I'm just talented, so I'm going to play in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, it started to kind of bore me because I won the scoring title. I won 3-point titles. I started to duplicate what I had already done so much in my career, but it was like, where's the payoff? Like, it wasn't my dream to play in EuroLeague. It wasn't my dream to be an all-star in Europe. So that's what got to the point where I started to think about, what do I want to do and make my gift, my God-given gift, how do I still use that without physically using it? And the best way I thought I could do it was put it in somebody else. And that's why I started the training and started giving back to kids, because now my ultimate fulfillment is watching somebody else take what I've given them and do something great with it.
Right. Well, I'd imagine you want your kids to be even better, right? If you got a guy who has a lot of talent, you want them to even surpass what you did and maybe not make some of the same mistakes. I don't even call them mistakes because it happens. You only get one shot sometimes, right? I mean, you get one shot, especially when you talk about your athletic career, right? It's a very precious gift you get. You want to take advantage of it, So you got a guy who's 19. He's struggling with balance. He's getting knocked down. He's tired. He had a bad freshman year. what do you say to them? How do you provide a 19-year-old the feedback to understand the wider scope of what they're going through, but to stay aggressive and to take advantage of the moment they're in? It's hard. I've struggled at times, I think, coming up with the right words to help those super talented guys, right? And they think they're really good, and they are good, but they are struggling maybe with the scope of what it all means and what they're going through. So how do you get into guys, dig into them, help them push forward, become the best players they can be, and also enjoy their time as well?
Well, I use this saying to a lot of times. You signed up to be a marathon runner, not a sprinter. This is a marathon, being a college basketball player. And there are going to be times where when you're jogging, you're going to want to stop. But you signed up to finish the distance. So we're preparing to finish at the end. We're not preparing to win the 40-yard sprint. And a lot of times what I do with kids, and I get a lot of phone calls now from the college basketball players. Like, I have relationships with tons of them, and they reach out to me via DM on Twitter, Instagram, or a lot of them have my number. And I get a lot of guys that are all-American college basketball players that reach out to me and saying, hey, man, I'm struggling with this. And that's what I tell them. You signed up to be a marathon runner, a great marathon runner, and not a great sprinter. So I think that you have to break the situation down in analogies when you're dealing with kids, because they're able to process it better. And that's what I like to do. I try to break it up, and I kind of watch film the same way that I speak. I dig deeper into what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That's great. Do you have a favorite team that you watch in college? You used to enjoy watching everybody.
I watch all college basketball, so I don't have a favorite team. I got a bunch of favorite players, but I will watch any college basketball game. If it's on, I'm locked into it, and I'm automatically just watching the players. I'm watching the offensive set. I'm watching the crowd reactions. I'm watching the coach. And then when the game's over with, I process the whole game, and I'm like analyzing it in my head. That's just how my mind works.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I kept you on way too long, but we got in depth. I think we got some really good conversation. You're such a motivational guy. I always love kind of picking your brain and just getting an understanding of how you talk with players and whether it's your players, your family, whatever. I always enjoy those motivational type talks with you. I think I kept you on a little bit longer than I should have, but I got 3 quick questions for you, free agency.
Yes.
And then what we do on the Be Different podcast, we always do 10 questions. They're yes or no, true and false with every guest we have on. So we'll finish up with that. It'll be pretty fun.
Okay.
So first one, question 1. People are going crazy about DeMarcus Cousins going to Golden State. Should they be? It's a 1-year contract.
No. You shouldn't be going crazy. It's a 1-year contract. He's coming off of Achilles injury. You don't know what you're going to have there. So I wouldn't hit the panic button there.
Okay. All right. Question 2. How does LeBron impact L.A.? We've seen the additions of Lance Stevenson, Rondo, Caldwell Pope, JaVale McGee. No shooters out there. What are they building? What is LeBron's impact? What does L.A. look like next year?
Well, from an economic standpoint, it's tremendous. LeBron already has 2 movie companies out there. So his brand is going to grow. His empire is going to grow off the court. On the court, the Lakers will be the 4th seed in the West. They'll get a shot in the playoffs. But this year, they're just not going to be able to do it. They don't have enough shooters.
All right, last question. NBA free agency, Kawhi Leonard. Where the heck is he going to go? Where does he fit in? What team can he go to and take them to an NBA championship?
I don't see him going to the Lakers. I don't think the San Antonio Spurs are going to do that. I see him going out east. It could be a dark horse team that hasn't even popped up on the market yet, but he won't go to the Lakers. They're not willing to give up those guys. And I think Kawhi Leonard is a terrific player, and hopefully we can see him back on the court in any uniform.
Absolutely. All right, Rashad, this is really why you came on the Be Different podcast. This is the best part of our show. It's 10 questions, okay? So they're all you can't say a wrong answer, but you're only going to have two options. You have to pick one of the two. They're going to be yes or no, true or false, better overall player, but you're going to have two options. Just pick one. First thing, I know. First thing that comes to mind, and I'm not going to allow you to explain yourself this time because you get to explain yourself in everything you do. When you do 10 questions on the Be Different podcast, you have to do it under our rules and our landscape. I'm sorry, Rashad. Are you ready to go?
That's fine. Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
ready to go. Let's go.
I'm going to start you off a little easy, and then we're going to get more and more difficult as we go. Okay. You ready?
Okay.
This is 10 questions with Rashad Philips. Rashad, would you rather spend a night at home or a night at a basketball game?
At a basketball game.
True or false? You still have enough bounce to dunk off 2 feet.
No.
More disappointing Detroit sports team right now, the Tigers or the Pistons?
The Pistons.
Better shooter, Brad Redford or Rashad Philips?
Brad Redford by a mile.
Dumber play, J.R. Smith game 1 in the NBA Finals or Chris Webber calling a timeout?
Definitely J.R. Smith.
True or false? Mo Bamba will end up being a better pro than DeAndre Ayton.
True.
Better overall player. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry.
Klay Thompson.
Yes or no? Trae Young will average over 17 points per game as a rookie.
Yes.
True or false? Lonzo Ball will be a Laker next year.
False.
True or false? LeBron James will win another championship before retirement.
False.
Awesome. That was 10 questions, Rashad.
That was tough, Brad. I felt like I thought shooting a free throw in front of 30,000 people would make me nervous, but you had me in the pressure cooker there.
The 10 questions are not easy. Because they're really tough, and you get a very short amount, and you can't explain yourself. So it's like you get into them, you're like, you go back and forth a lot. But it's by, I do that by design. I don't want to make these easy. It's not fun. The Lonzo Ball one's a tough question.
Tough.
A lot of these are tough ones. The Tigers or Pistons, I like that. Detroit, the Pistons are so disappointing right now.
They don't. I mean, they gave up their first. They could have got a lottery pick and got. I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know what's going on. And my guy Tim Hardaway's not there anymore, so I'm super disappointed.
Right.
I love Tim. Tim's such a good dude.
Yeah.
I love Tim being in Detroit. So, hey, Rashad, that was fantastic stuff, man. As expected, man, the college guru, the NBA guru, the motivational speaker, you're a do-it-all guy. Your energy is boundless, man. I when I watch you and I talk to you, I'm like, man, I gotta make sure I smile every day and keep my energy up, man. So continue to keep doing what you're doing, man. I love what you're doing on 2319. If you're watching our show, be sure to go and subscribe to Rashad's show. He does a great job. He's keeping track of everybody at all levels. He's not just focusing on the 5 or 6 guys everybody else is talking about. So make sure you dive into what he's doing. And Rashad, I know you're in Florida, but I'd love to catch up with you soon. And it's been too long since we caught up, man, so I appreciate it.
Yes, man. Thank you for having me so much. And guess what? You are the top jump shooter broadcaster in the country right now.
Oh, hey, I'll take that. If you're the top of anything, I'm happy to be on that list, man.
Yeah, man. You're number one.
All right. See you, Rashad.
Thank you.